It's like a tsunami, Norm. You can see it coming. I just can't tell how high the wall is.
I can't hear. 998. What? 3.283 million.
Oh, well, that's not the 4 million they were expecting.
The average consensus was 2.5. Originally, he said 998,000 is what he said to begin with. So that came in at 3.283 million jobless claims just dropped. I think the biggest number out there was 4. So that's on the higher end.
Wow.
All
Yeah,
right.
which is probably not completely accurate in the way they gather the data, right? Because it's still, I don't know, what do you know, Norm? What's the latency on that?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, it's not accurate as of today, right? I mean, it takes them some time to gather the jobless numbers, so it must be accurate as of what, like Friday or like last Friday? I don't know.
Uh, it's the number released is for last week.
Okay,
So they get all the numbers from the states
right,
and they put it together and release it for last week.
right. So, so that's whatever, was reflected as of last week, or and then of course there's lead time for the states to gather their data. So just saying with the situation
No,
we're
it's an actual claim.
yeah.
It's not a survey or anything. That's, anyway.
No, but there's still always
But the
data
market's
gathering. Anyways, the point is
the
that
market's popping hard right now. So
it's changing rapidly. So with that, guys, why don't we jump right into it? Norm, I mean, obviously we've already started talked about one of the big items in news, but why don't we just talk at the markets about the markets overall?
yeah, absolutely. So as we get up this morning, we wake up to the smallest gappers list, at least for the moment, that we've had in a long time.
Indeed.
SPY finished kind of an epic 2-day run, or at least was on its way to yesterday until the last half hour completely collapsed and essentially fell back. Gave back a huge chunk of where some of the legislation trying to come through, the stimulus legislation from Bernie Sanders. So anyway, that having been said, right now we're down 1.5%. We're well off the lows of the morning after that employment number came out. Market's gone a little haywire, massive volume going through the SPY. We'll see where it ends up.
Yeah.
Today, that was the big number. As I've mentioned, that was the big number for the day. Q4 GDP read came out. That was exactly what was expected. No change in that. So that's what we got. Tomorrow morning, we've got consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. and consumer spending at 8:30. So that consumer sentiment number should be interesting.
You said that's tomorrow morning, though, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. Well, as Norm said, look, we can see, guys, the market's popped here a little bit. We got about 1.5 out of that on the SPY, so we'll see if we hold that. Watching yesterday, yeah, it was actually interesting being here through to the close. Just if you look at the chart, as Norm said, we were trending up from about 11 o'clock, 11:30. It was looking good. We then chopped sideways, no issues there, but then. And I still don't know specifically what news happened, but somewhere, just about 15, 20 minutes before the close, I mean, we started to lose a significant number of those gains. So big drop into the close. I was a little nervous about what that would mean for this morning, but we're not down hugely this morning. So we'll see what today brings. So let's get into the stuff on our gappers. As Norm also said, hey, it's actually manageable. It's not off the bottom of the screen for the first time in a long time. So we might have a chance of taking a look at almost everything on here. Let's start with, I thought I was starting with the one at the top, but it's not. So let's start actually with Signet Jewelers. I know that they had earnings and they reported sometime early this morning. They always report very early for whatever reason. But I didn't actually see what the earnings report was. Do you know, Norm?
I have not dug into it yet, actually. Like you said, they released earlier, but their same-store sales were up 2.3% versus, and North America was up 2.9. Earnings per share was 3.14. Excuse me, they beat. They came in at 3.67 EPS versus 3.47, so beat there, and their revenues, I believe, beat as well. But I've got some funky estimate number here, so obviously the market's taking it well, popping them up 16.4% this morning.
Yeah, it seems
But
like
like everything else, I mean, they're way off, where they've been.
yeah,
So
it seems like an overreaction, if you will, to the results. But I mean, I guess it is what it is. That being said, when I last looked at Signet, probably in the last quarter, they were trading at about 2 to 3 times the price. So I don't. I mean, the pre-market doesn't look good at all, and I've found that it actually can be a tough trade. This is a NYSE stock, so it tends to be difficult to trade. We'll see. We'll see what it brings today. Maybe we'll set some levels and we'll take a look at it. AU Anglo Gold. Now, this is the one that normally we say we don't look at the gold miners. I was looking at it earlier today, and yesterday it actually traded like a real stock. I put that in air quotes, a real stock. Like it traded not bad. Pre-market doesn't look terrible either. I don't know. I still like both gold miners and usually the oil companies are not things that I like to trade. I don't know whether I should change my opinion. God, if I could speak. Norm, anything specific why Anglo Gold, though, is up 11%?
I wouldn't know. I won't look up something of a gold company in a foreign country. It's kind of useless to me, so I don't waste my time on
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. All right, let's move on then. Let's look at
short and sweet, but
yeah.
I'm being honest on that.
Is
Like you
Anglo?
said, we usually don't trade it, even though it might throw out a day or two every once in a while. It trades okay. It's just not anything that's of interest to me.
Yeah. I don't. What is Anglo Gold? What's it? They're South African. Okay. All right. Work. Slack Technologies is on the list here, up 5%. That's pre-market looks absolutely terrible though. Again, I haven't looked up anything on the list this morning, so my apologies. Norm, anything driving work up 5%?
The only thing that I've seen here is the CEO of Slack put out a thread yesterday on, or late last night, I believe, on kind of what's been going on with them in the last couple of days. And some of it was talking about major companies going all out on Slack in this new reality we have of working from home. So that, I think, is probably what's the driver of this. I've seen nothing else.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's moving. Anyways, pre-market looks absolutely terrible.
Work is not the easiest stock to trade by any stretch.
No.
It's not the most liquid. It's usually pretty spready, and it doesn't have great pre-market activity. Unless it gets better, this wouldn't be something I would add to my list.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. So, because I've never had a good time trading it. But let me just get rid of Anglo Gold too. All right, so now, things keep jumping in front of MU, which I want to get to. Boeing, it's on the list, guys. I think this is just continued general sentiment against Boeing. You could see, as we said, a couple days ago, this is below 100. Look at us now, right? 165, and still looking strong. So, Norm, unless you know something specific, I'll just assume this is general movement on Boeing.
Yeah, I haven't. Embraer came out this morning and posted a loss. They had earnings this morning, and they didn't meet the expectations. Other than that, I haven't seen a whole lot, other than just, of course, this legislation going through that's going to be helping Boeing. So
Right. Yep. Exactly. Things keep jumping onto my list here, so we'll try and keep up. Tilray is on the list again. Bad pre-market, guys. I do not like the pre-market trading on it. Tilray is a pot company, right? I don't. They're listed as a manufacturing company here. I don't. Again, haven't looked up any news. You know anything, Norm, about Tilray?
I'm not seeing anything new this morning. There was some buzz on it in the last day or so, but I've seen nothing new as of this morning.
It just looked like they've been taken by the markets. As you can see, guys, really little candles on the daily. Tilray hasn't moved a lot. Like if I'm going to look at one of these, normally I look at Canopy Growth, CGC. But we can maybe set some levels for Tilray. We'll see what the morning brings. All right, CODX is back on our list. We've talked about this. It had that big jump when they looked like they were at the forefront of the coronavirus support. But it's just sort of faded off. Pre-market doesn't look good. Unless there's something big happening with Codex, I would generally be inclined to ignore them.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, good. So that brings us right to MU. MU is the big one. It had earnings after the close yesterday, and we can see after the close, I mean, this is what happens often when you get earnings. You get this crazy movement, right? So it was actually falling into the close. Closed somewhere around 42 and jumped all the way up to a little over 46 before settling back to 44 where we are now. So Norm, maybe you can tell us the details on their earnings.
Yeah, well, they beat top and bottom line expectations, but on top of that, their guidance was pretty decent. I mean, they're getting hit in some segments. Consumer stuff is down to some degree. But the real driver in this business a lot of times is data center. And with all of the work from home transition taking place, they're seeing just massive demand in data center for NAND and DRAM chips. So that is what's causing their good fortunes this morning.
I hadn't known that side of it, but yeah, MU. I was really surprised that they sort of held their guidance, and I mean the positive quarter, not a huge surprise, but they do seem to be generally bullish on the markets. Delta Airlines up 2%. It just I don't. Let me just take a peek here, but I don't think that anything special is happening. Pre-market's okay. It actually has been a good mover, like I mentioned. Delta, American Airlines, you can sort of pick either one. They generally have been moving well the last little while. Surprised to see them going up as much as they have, as we sort of had that discussion yesterday morning in the pre-market. When have airlines not been in trouble? And here's another instance where, frankly, they're not out of trouble. Why the price is going up, I'm not sure, but I don't think anything specific is happening with Delta. Norm?
I haven't seen anything specific, no.
No, okay. All right. So gold we'll skip over. And now we get into those that are down on the market. So we've got a few that are down, basically equivalent with the SPY. I expect these are just sort of sympathy moves. I notice that they're jumping on and off as they get around the 2% mark. So guys, I'm actually just going to skip over. We've got Tesla, GE, and Royal Caribbean. You can see on here, all right in that 2% range. There's nothing specific on any of those of which I'm aware. Norm, just jump in and interrupt me if you know of something we should talk about. Same thing with Oxy, CCL. These things are just.
So Oxy did get a downgrade this morning. Okay. Oil is down 4% this morning, or a little over 4% actually. Oxy got downgraded. Analysts put a $7 price target on it, so I think that's contributing to what's going on with Oxy this morning.
Okay, Occidental Petroleum. All right, so there's them. I see Ford is on the list. It was on the list yesterday. I actually traded Ford a couple of times, and it wasn't that bad. I mean, you have to keep in mind it's relative movement, right? It's not one that you're going to get a $2 move on. It's I was getting 20, 30 cent moves, but it actually did move well. I see it's down today after having had.
I'll be right back, Peter.
Yeah, no worries. It jumped up yesterday and then sold off, as you can see, right? So it was sort of yesterday's motion was up and down. I said I got a couple of good trades on Ford, but like I said, look from top to bottom here, we're talking about 60, 70 cents. So as long as you keep that in mind, Ford is a potential. It's down today. I don't have any particular news on it this morning. However, I mean, it is being impacted like all with the effect of the factory shutdown. They did mention that they were going to be teaming up with, I thought it was 3M to produce respirators, but I'm seeing a news this morning that they're debt deemed junk. So that's probably what's driving the decline here this morning. You never want your debt downgraded to junk status. NHLC is another one of our favorite cruise lines, our favorite 3 cruise lines. You notice that all 3 are on the list here: CCL, RCL, and Norwegian. They all seem to be down this morning. The cruise line industry is still being hurt. It was sort of interesting that they're offering up ships as emergency medical centers, I guess, holding places for those that are ill. But I don't know that anyone's taken them up on that, nor that they will. That feels like a last, be sort of a last resort if anyone decided they were going to put the ill onto cruise ships at this point. Right now, I'm not seeing any specific news other than there's a number of class action suits against the cruise lines, as often happens when things drop so precipitously. So, we can keep an eye on them in general, but nothing specific to Norwegian.
I think they're getting hit because the from what my understanding, the legislation doesn't have a doesn't specifically mention cruise lines. And even though they're anticipated that they'll be bailed out in this, it doesn't specifically allot something to cruise lines.
Right, because I think aren't all the cruise lines, they're pretty much all registered in the Bahamas or the Caymans or something, right, for tax reasons?
Yeah, most of them. Yeah, I don't know if it's for tax reasons. I know it's a shipping deal. Yeah. It's shipping. They have looser regulations on shipping, so. A lot of boats are registered in the Bahamas and such for that reason, and that's why I don't know that I know the ships are registered there. I don't know that the companies themselves are technically registered there. So
that's a good point.
For instance, Norwegian Cruise Lines is headquartered in Miami, so okay. I don't know specifics on that. I haven't gotten into it.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. You're right. It's the ships, not necessarily the company. Because I just thought, if I was a legislator, I would say if you haven't been paying taxes, why would I be considering bailing you out? But maybe they are actually registered as an organization in North America, even if their ships are elsewhere for whatever reason.
Yeah, correct.
All right. Anyways, for that, whatever the reason is, NCHL and the cruise lines are on here. Again, pre-market doesn't look good on any of them, but I'll just review our levels on NCLH. Beyond the Meat is back on the list. Look at that. Down 8%. Pre-market is not
They got a downgrade out of Goldman this morning from neutral to sell, and moved their price target from $129 to $39.
Wow!
I think they went to my grocery store and realized it's the only thing left that's finger quotes meat.
Yeah, that really tells consumer sentiment when you're in a pandemic and you can see the only thing available on the shelf, right? Maybe it hasn't quite taken hold of the public as they'd like to think. Anyways, all right. Well, that's a big downgrade from 129 to 31, essentially scraping $100.
39, yeah.
Oh, okay. There you
Just
go.
about, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's that. And the last here, cake down quite a bit here, 16.5%. This is the Cheesecake Factory. This feels like an earnings thing, but I didn't know they had earnings. Do you know what's going on with the Cheesecake Factory?
Yeah, actually, it came out last night. They told their landlords they're flat out not gonna pay their rent. For April. So, it turns out you can't have your cake and eat it too. It is taking a massive nosedive here, down to 16.5%.
Okay, I'm just taking a note on that. They will not pay rent. I'm seeing that article now. That's quite aggressive of them, because they're often like cornerstone tenants, right? They've got big properties in usually very populated areas. So I got to imagine their rent is fairly significant. So that's got to be a big impact. I'm not sure they can actually legally do that, but. Anyways.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd like to call my bank and just say I'm not going to pay my rent for April. I expect you to take care of it for me. If they cut their recipe, if they cut their menu book in half, that would reduce their cost enough to be able to pay their rent.
Well,
Anyway,
right now their menu book is reduced to zero because they're not doing much of
yeah.
anything.
Well, this is true.
So, but you're right. I've the menu is like a dictionary. All right. So, anyways,
Between them and Restoration Hardware, it's depleting the Amazon.
there you go. The pre-market though does not look good on cake. I don't actually know how. I don't think I've ever traded the Cheesecake Factory, so I can't speak to how it trades during the day. It is a Nasdaq stock though, so maybe I'll set some levels and we'll see if anything good comes of it. All right, let me just scan back up the list and see what else we've got. I see MGM has popped onto the list. PCG. But they're just in the 2% range. Zoom is up just a 2.6%. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, those often, they come on and off our list as good traders, but unless there's specific news, probably not worth us reviewing this morning. In the room, guys, and in YouTube, this is your chance if you want me to look at something specific that we can add to our list. Recommend it. In the meantime, I'll look at the Nasdaq. There's not usually anything on here. I'll just flip through quickly. No, that's a penny stock on XSPA. BIOC I know has been on the list in the past, but it's a 30-cent stock. Micron we've already looked at. American Airlines is on here. That's interesting. Just on a volume basis, but it's not moving significantly. Apple. Yeah, nothing special going on there, really. AYTU keeps hanging out here, but it's under $2. All right. Big gainers. WSG, VBLT, these are all like penny stock stuff, guys. So usually there's not anything in here, but every once in a while you'll get a gem, so it's worth taking a look through. I don't see anything on the gainers and the losers. Again, cake, we've already talked about. Arcadia. Taco, I don't even know what that is. Don't care. But looking at it, ONCY, not good. Last, I'll look at WTRH, no, a dollar stock. Okay, nothing there. Let me check.
Leave it to a Canadian to not be. Leave it to a Canadian to not be interested in the taco.
Not interested in tacos. I like fish.
You keep your poutine, we'll keep our tacos. All right.
All right, fair enough. Cheese curds and gravy. All right.
Oh, God.
All right, guys. In the room, I saw somebody mention work, which we've already looked at. MFA is not something I've taken a peek at. Let's take a look at what is MFA? MFA. It's a financial company. Don't normally look at those. It's a sub $2 stock. Pre-market actually looks good. Almost 7 million shares traded. I don't know what the deal is, but guys, this thing was trading under $1 yesterday. So I'm really not that interested, to be honest. JNUG, we don't normally look at the sort of those indices or the ETFs, so I'll just skip over that. But thanks, Nika, for the recommendation. People are suggesting we look at space, or sorry, I shouldn't call it SPCE, Virgin Galactic. Pre-market doesn't look great on it. It's sort of bounced like everything. I don't know, unless people are looking to just escape the planet, they've had enough, they're getting out of here. Space is just sort of moving with the markets.
No, you can't lose your revenue if you don't have any.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I really think that's what's helped that one.
Yeah. Space. All right. And that's about it. Norm, anything from you you'd like to see added?
I'm still looking around right now. SIG is taking off. Their conference call is currently in progress, so
Okay.
that might be part of what's going on. They might be. We're 24 minutes into it. They're probably starting to get into Q&A from analysts, and that might be what's moving it right now.
Right. Well, certainly we'll keep that near the top of the list here. Okay. Let's go to our announcements then, and I'll hand it over to you, Norm, to read them out.
I am going to keep my eye on Zoom, by the way. I'll throw out my list in a little bit, but what we have not talked about, Zoom's been in play a lot. I'm not going to force a trade on this by any means. I mean, I try not to force a trade on anything, period, but Zoom, unless it's really trading well, and a lot of times pre-market it isn't, so it's hard to tell. If it's not, I'm not going to look at it because it just is so difficult to trade if it's not really in play. Anyway, back over to announcements. All right, guys, success webinars. Here we go. Next week, or excuse me, so last night, we had Ed Martin, Average Joe Trader, talking about trading after hour earnings. Earnings season will be coming up here shortly, a few weeks. So that's great. That recording should be up in the Education Center soon. Next Wednesday, we'll have Stephen Goldstein at 6 p.m. since he's in London. He's a professional trader turned psychologist. So he will be talking about trading in this tough environment. And then the week after that, Peter, on the other side of the microphone from me, is going to talk about his lightning bolt pattern strategy. And then after that, we'll have Brian Shannon, author and big proponent of the anchored VWAP. He'll be talking about the anchored VWAP and day trading. We are still running the St. Patrick's Day promo. It'll come to an end soon as March closes, but you can use the promo code St. Patrick's when you check out for the lifetime one payment membership. It's 40% off. Just use that promo code at checkout. Are you doing the closing bell show today, Peter?
Yes, we are.
All right. So
Every
tune
day
in at
this week.
3:30 today. Yeah, awesome. Tune in at 3:30 today on YouTube. If you're a member of the room, you don't need to go to YouTube as well, but we'll be simulcasting the room to YouTube every day this week from 3:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern. So that last half hour of the markets, get some commentary with Peter and Brian on what's going on, and then also any earnings. For instance, Micron earnings came out yesterday while they were on. It was great to talk about it. If you're watching us on YouTube, haven't been in the chat, you can do so at a discount. Use the promo code premarket24 at checkout for the intro membership. It'll give you a discount off that. Does not auto renew or turn into any other kind of membership.
Excellent. And yes, we do have some earnings coming up tonight, so we'll have a few things to take a look at, as well as our normal trading into the close. All right, YouTube is suggesting a couple of other stocks. I'll just take a quick look at UNH, United Health. Terrible pre-market. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Nothing going on there. GPMT. Oops, if I can learn to type. GPMT Granite Point. Boy, this is up. Oh, it's another mortgage trust. So I don't generally look at those. The pre-market doesn't look bad, but I've never liked the way they trade, and it's not something I put on my list. And AIM Immunotech, $2 stock, only 1 million shares, but pre-market actually looks okay. I don't know if there's any news on AIM, but again, guys, it is only a $2 stock, which means irrespective of what the volume is, yeah, it's at 29 million shares, so it's on the verge of being a low float as well. So probably not something that I'll look at, but what the heck, I'll add it here if we have time to just set a level on it. Okay, let's go through and do that, guys. Set some levels as we head to 9 o'clock here and closer to the market open. So MU, it's our big... one of the big gainers from the earnings. I've got a level that was already set. You can see right in here that I'm going to leave right around $45. We also happen to have sort of the high and low of previous days that are in here, as well as the pre-market highs and lows. So it's clogging up this area. Gives me a lot of levels to take a look at. If this does go up, I really like this area right here where we saw both resistance here and support here around 48.50. You can see MU bounce. I don't think we would ever get this high, but around $55, you can see MU sort of had areas where it had hit resistance a couple of times back in December of last year, as well as earlier this month. That's probably the levels I need on MU. Generally, MU, it's the intraday activity you want to watch. I see that on the daily chart, I might keep an eye on this, so maybe I'll put a level here just to remind myself that I've got the 200 moving average on the daily is right here at 47.46. So that could come into play. I always keep a daily chart up so that I'll be able to see that actively, but in case you don't, there's a level set against it. All right, Signet Jewelers, as we mentioned, is up. Pre-market is not looking great, but it is our biggest gainer on the list here this morning. So We'll try and find some levels. The daily is not really lending itself to some great levels. I'm going to set one here at about 11. What is the high here of this day? 1142, and this candle, wow, was up at 1195. So 1140. I'm going to put this level right here at 1140. In case that comes into play. We're only at about 860 now, so it might not. Otherwise, the high of pre-market is something to take a look at 930. You can see that here on my chart where it's spiked up there and then almost touched it again a few minutes ago. I'll also put something right at the bottom of this candle, which is at a low of $12.68. I can't imagine that we're going to need more levels than that to the upside. If we do, we can look at them during the day, and if this thing drops, I've got the previous day's highs and lows already marked. Boeing, well, Boeing is, I tried to trade it yesterday. I know that Norm traded it yesterday. It was a tough trade. Like it moved and then it decided not to. Right at midday here. Look at this from yesterday. Right, it gives you an indication that there's this is multiple dollar movements in even these little candles. But it was sort of had what looked like a good climb up, and then look at how much of the day it spent sort of just chopping sideways. And this is not a small range. This is a $5-7 range that it's moving in here. So it did that for a long period of time. Generally, in this downward channel that it was creating until it sort of dropped at the end of the day. It's tough to know what Boeing was going to do. Today maybe will be a better day for some directional trading, but I don't know. I mean, it's feeling like how much farther can it go without specific details about any aid package, but we'll see. I've already got level set 187.78, which we'd set yesterday, and then a couple down below here at 154 and 151. I think I'm just going to leave those as well as the pre-market highs and lows, and then we'll see what the day brings on Boeing. Tilray, as we mentioned, not something I like to trade. Pre-market looks terrible. I don't see any reason to trade this, frankly. I'm just going to take it off my list, not even set levels on it. Delta Airlines, we've talked about. This is Delta, American, and United are the three airlines that I will tend to look at if I'm going to trade an airline. I see that as my list starts to get longer as we head towards the open. JetBlue is back on our list. Yesterday, Save was on the list, but I would stick to these ones just because they have the better volume, makes them easier to trade. Levels are already set, as you can see on my chart, around 37, 38.75, and 41.45. I'm just going to leave those, as well as, again, previous days, highs and lows. So that's good for me for Delta. We talked about Oxy, despite Norm's feelings about these petroleum companies. It did have news today, but guys, look at this flat. Over the last, it's actually held relatively flat despite, with the markets going down. But the price action, obviously, it's not very good during these days. I don't really have any great levels other than the previous day's highs and lows. Maybe up here, there's a level at 1440. Down below, I have to go back in time and see, has this ever traded down here? It looks like we're at all-time lows. Well, maybe not all time. Yeah, I've got to go back to 20 years ago. I've got to go back to 2000 for the stock price to be this low. I don't even know whether these levels are remotely relevant, frankly. I'm going to set a couple here, but I'll have to keep in mind anything below the current price, if I end up looking at, is probably not relevant. Level at 877 and 786. If you're going back 20 years, I don't know that it's really going to be significant. However, there you go. Ford, yesterday I set levels at 590 and 640. The 590 level was very significant. It did come into play. You can see it actually turned out to be the high of yesterday's trading action. So that certainly worked. Today, if we're seeing a decline as the sentiment sort of leaks off, we've got the previous day lows that are here. And I don't see any other great levels that I want to set. So that's good for Ford. NCLH. Had a little rebound off the lows with the ultimate low that it set here being 703. So it bounced just above 7. I'm going to remind myself of that just by setting a level here at 703. Other than that, once again, guys, previous day high and low, because what's happened with the market is everything's come down, back up, which puts us in this range for the majority of stocks. I'll leave just what you see on the screen. Beyond Meat, the only thing left on the shelves in Texas, apparently, is, sort of just in a range here. Yesterday's trading action looks terrible. So, look, the 2 days ago low is already marked here on my chart. You can see it here at about 61.95. Other than that, the ultimate low here was 48.18, so I've got a level set there. And speaking of things on shelves, it's interesting that my daughter was talking about she was looking for yeast and couldn't find it anywhere. Apparently baking is a soothing thing for people during pandemics. Flour and yeast is sold out everywhere because people are baking. I don't know if anyone, I'm not a baker.
It's all these, it's a bunch of people that have never cooked before. They're probably storing it. I would imagine they're probably storing it because you can store flour and yeast for a long time.
Yeah, it could be.
Make bread if the supply chains get disrupted. That would be my guess. Yeah, preppers.
Pandemic bread. Apparently, people are making their own pizza because they're afraid to buy it. That was one of the things that I heard that was driving it. I don't know. I am not making anything dough related myself. So, and anyways, all right. Let's move on here to Cheesecake Factory. Cheesecake Factory is down this morning, and I've just set a low here. The low of this candle is at 14.52. We're heading that direction with the stock price down 15% here. I think it very well could hit that, and I'll have to go back. So we're certainly not at all-time lows. We've got to go back about 12 years to find some lower levels here. Let me just see. That 1452 that we set, guys, look how it cut across a couple of these areas where it found support back then. I'm just going to set another level below here, roughly at this area around 1387. And then one here, it's just the peak of this day, around $11. Let me just put this right at 11. I don't know if they will be relevant, but it's worth keeping an eye on if the price gets down there. All right, so that's good for our non-rent paying friends at the Cheesecake Factory. Zoom, Norm mentioned, and as he said, guys, I've found this a tough trade. I mean, there's been opportunity in it, but it's been a tough trade. I mean, it was exciting during this run up. The last couple of days when it's been chopping around here makes it tougher. Previous days highs and lows are set here. 2 days ago we set a high of 164.94. I'll just set a level to remind myself of that. I'd have no expectation that'll be in play today, but there it is. And as you can see, I just set this level at 129.54 a while ago at the peak of this candle. That's good for me. Those are the levels that I like. Last that was mentioned by one of our members was AIM. Again, $2 stock. I'd be cautious with it. I really don't like the way the daily candles look here. However, if this gets running right around here, 275 seems to me might be an area it would hit resistance if you're looking to follow it. It also, resistance. It also had some support, which may prove to be a resistance right through this range here, around 360. I have to say around because there's a general level that goes from about 350 to 370. We'll see, though, if it even remotely gets to that area if you're following it. Unless it pops up on my scanners, I'm not likely to come back to it, but the pre-market doesn't look so bad. All right, so that's what I've got. Let me do one last scan of the gappers to see if anything huge jumped up here. TWO, didn't I look at that yesterday? Maybe not. We hear Norm's son is not happy. He does not like our gappers.
Guys, I'm gonna drop off a minute early and see what's going on and go take care of that. Give my wife a hand for a minute, so I'll be back and I'll be back later, guys.
All right,
bye.
No problem, Norm. For any of us that have had kids, we all know what that's like, right? Sudden and unpredictable meltdowns. Gosh, I'm glad to be out of that stage. My kids are all in their 20s, and they can still have sudden and unpredictable meltdowns, but it usually doesn't exhibit itself the same way. So, all right, guys, that's all I've got that we're going to look at. I'm going to be looking at MU and SIG. I can't not look at the airlines and the cruise lines because you just never know. They've been pretty good, steady movers. I'm probably going to keep an eye on Ford as well, just because I had some good trades on it yesterday. We'll see what it brings today. It may likely go flat, and there's no real great trades in it, but I'll probably put it on my list. And then Cheesecake Factory. I've got to believe it's probably going to go down more, despite the pre-market not being so great. I'll probably put an eye to it. So that's it for me in the list. I see Andrew in our room is getting ready to come on board, so he's going to be taking us live trading as he does every day through the day, and then we have our various moderators that come on. So for everybody on YouTube, if you haven't had a chance to join us, use one of our discount codes. It's worth taking the shot, and seeing if it's for you. Not every trading room is for every trader, but we've got a great environment with our members are fantastic, very helpful, and we know that we can help you in your trading journey. So hopefully we'll see you in the room soon. If not, join us for the close show as we take you through the closing bell on Wall Street with myself and any special guests I have. We'll be doing this every day this week as we try something new. And with that, I'll pass it over to Andrew, and on YouTube, we'll talk to you guys later. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Peter. Good morning, Norm. Thank you so much.